Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Welcome in. Purple Daily here. No pilot. Just us two passengers.
It's a lot of screen right now. It's a lot of screen. A lot of screen for both of us.
I could give you even more screen here. Let me push some buttons and see what happens.
How
about you want more? Oh, more screen.
Oh, more screen.
Or is that
and now
less
you got
screen?
now you got my desk in it too. See, so
What's that? Oh, that's like the.
It's like
is there like a cupboard or something?
Yeah,
or?
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Now you're.
What other buttons could we push with Dex? It's wedding week for Declan.
Brady Bunch thing where you're above me and then I'm down here. Is that possible?
See. How about this right here? Oh, there's just me.
There's
crazy.
you. Yeah, nice couch.
This is like when they let like a 5-year-old child into. I don't think they let that happen anymore. Like when I was a kid, I remember one time my mom allowed me to dress up as Batman. It was my Halloween costume when I was like 5 years old. So we were going to visit some relatives on the West Coast, and so I dressed like Batman. This is before 9/11, clearly. And the pilot invited Batman to come up to the cockpit, and I got to sit there for like a half hour and watch them fly.
You can't do that
plane.
anymore. No, that's a bad idea.
Not even with a 5-year-old. You can't.
Batman's intentions are unknown.
No. So there's gonna be some spoilers here because you've binged the entire receiver series on Netflix.
Yep.
I'm a couple episodes in. We're going to go over just some of the interesting things to note from the first couple episodes of Netflix Receiver, starring Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Devontae Adams. But speaking of superheroes, Finch Home Solutions is a superhero for your home.
That's absolutely correct. And there you see, if you're watching this right now, the van's pulling out early in the morning each and every day. You know why? Because Finch knows that there are electrical repairs. You talk about Superman, Spider-Man, Batman. Finch is the superhero of home solutions when it comes to electrical issues. Talked to Cody, my buddy, a couple of days ago, and right now they've got some deals. They've always got deals, and these are good ones, offering $250 off on electrical panel work. Purple Daily customers also get free dispatch fees with purchase repairs. We're talking about things like small things, but we're also talking about things like, yes, it's nice outside right now, but fall is coming. And Phil, that means one thing. It means it's hot tub time. It's going to be hot tub time. Wow. A lot of electrical work to be done with that. And so, again, Finch has deals for you. Give them a call, 612-357-2604, or more conveniently, go to their website, finchhomesolutions.com, finchhomesolutions.com, and make sure that when you do, you tell them the Purple Daily guys told you to do it.
Let's start with Justin Jefferson observations. So the first two episodes, the first one, Jefferson wasn't even really in it. I think it was just Kittle, Deebo, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
And then the second one focused more on Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
And it kind of took you all the way through the first few games of the season up until the hamstring tweak. And the second episode ends with him on the shelf with a hamstring injury. What were your biggest observations about Justin Jefferson, the Vikings, just from the first, I guess the second episode was the only one that he was on?
Well, I told you this a couple of days ago, and I did not say this in a derogatory way, and I will say it again, not in a derogatory way. Unlike the Cousins thing, where he sort of opened a door that we had not walked through before, like whether that was really Kirk or not, it was interesting because it's like we've never really seen this side of Kirk. Justin Jefferson, to me, and again, I say this as a compliment, is exactly who I thought. He is a very cool kid. He is a kid. He's young.
He's a big kid.
Yeah, he's a big kid. His parents are great. I was a little bit surprised, and I'm guessing that this has changed, that it appeared he lived in a townhome in Egan because, he's rich and now he's richer. But there was really, Phil, there was nothing like we can get into some of the details of things. But like, as far as, do I think differently about Justin Jefferson this morning after watching this documentary? No, I don't. I thought that he was, I think throughout the course of this thing, we learn more about the four receivers in it with him than we do about Justin, because I think Justin is a very normal guy off the field and a very extraordinary guy and wired to win on the field. But there's not a side that we got where I was like, oh wow, didn't see that. Like he's got, and I would have liked to get. I feel like at the end of the day, and the second episode is a ton of him and, as you said, Devontae. I would have liked to get a little bit more of him personally, like in his house at home doing things. Like I think he plays games all the time. We don't really see that side, but there was nothing that really surprised me. This was the anti quarterback, because that one I was like, wow, this is Kirk Cousins, huh? This one I was like, yeah, this is what I thought Justin Jefferson would be like.
Yeah. So the things we learned about him, and I largely agree with you that he's the way that he appears just in interviews, on the field, around practice, whatever. He's just, for 4 years, he's been this joyful kid at heart. And so, okay, one of the first things you see is he's explaining his Jets persona, that there's Justin and then there's Jets. And Jets is this confident, sort of swaggy, primetime player. And he's literally taking you through these crazy necklaces and like all the bling that he's purchased even before he signed the contract. So he's buying. So in terms of like being a big kid, okay, I'm going to go buy a bunch of expensive jewelry and beef up my Jets persona. Mm-hmm. He's showing you cupboards full of candy that he eats. He's like, I love candy. And I hired a personal chef so I can eat clean for like 90% of my day. And then I can like have some room on the back end for Sour Patch Kids or whatever it is. And then there was that scene where his personal chef is like whipping up some steak and asparagus.
Looked really good, by the way.
Just great, healthy food. Yeah. And he's sitting in his living room, Justin Jefferson, kind of shouting over at the kitchen island. Not shouting, but he's like, hey, is it close to ready? And he's got his feet kicked up on this recliner. And all of a sudden, his Under Armour TV commercial comes on. And he starts like giddily laughing to himself. I mean, he outside of the sequence after the touchback fumble in Philadelphia, where he was just, he was pissed. He was hard on himself. Right. He's apologizing to every coach and teammate up and down the sideline the entire game. Outside of like, something goes wrong on the football field, he just seems like a really joyful, fun-loving, good guy. And it's, you watch Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's like, okay, there's a very serious side to his personality, and he speaks 3 different languages because of his family background. And with Jefferson, it just, I don't know, unless we just haven't seen the layers that some of these other guys have. It just seems like what you see is what you get with him.
So my sense is with St. Brown, like, I mean, this guy's dad has driven the boys, his brother and him to be pro football players since day one, or to be professional athletes. I will say this about Jefferson, and yes, on the field, it's different. Like there was some interesting stuff there. You knew he took the fumble through the end zone hard. I don't think that we knew how hard. And there are some things on the field that I learned from. As far as off the field, I think the stars I saw from Justin's side, not because they're gregarious, but just because they're really stabilizing, are his parents. Mm-hmm. Like they're just ordinary parents. And I say that again, I say that in a really good way. They love their kids a lot. His mom worries constantly. They're all competitive, but I mean, it's just a normal family. And I think that's why Justin comes off as a normal kid. Like he is not, there's no like motivating thing of I was driven by this or I was driven by that. I think he's just an extremely competitive, great player. But I mean, I loved his mom. His mom talks a ton and she's great, but she reminds me of moms that like I saw,
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it is. God, there's a couple other tentacles here. So after the Philadelphia game, I would say this. We're 9 minutes into this, and I think my biggest take, I could have led with this, but I think my biggest takeaway from the first couple episodes wasn't something I learned about Justin Jefferson. It's something I learned about Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Every time they win, and they won 13 times in his first season, and last year was a little more tumultuous, but when they win games, the Vikings Entertainment Network puts out those videos from the locker room. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, right? You see the 2.5-minute post-game celebration speech. Kevin O'Connell's giving out the game balls. He's pumping everybody up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the
And away we go.
big speeches that he gives in the locker room. Mm-hmm. But what we don't see, this was the most famous one
And
here.
I tell you guys I love you. I mean it. From the bottom of my heart. I will ride with this group until they don't let us play any more games.
Like, we see all of that at its peak, right? Here we go, let's charge forward. What they don't put out are after you lose a game and you turn the ball over 8 times, 7 times in your first 2 weeks of the season, Vikings Entertainment Network isn't showing you the bad side of it. So we've always kind of wondered, like, you know, he's got a little bit of an edge to him, but he seems like a really positive, player-centric coach. What happens when things go sideways? How is he going to handle adversity? And we haven't gotten that glimpse until this series came out. Yep. And he's in there lighting these guys up after that Eagles game, basically saying, you need to care more. You know, you protecting the football is protecting the organization, and I need you to care more. We have the leaders in here to make it happen. And he left it on an uplifting note, but he was lighting into that Vikings locker room in a way that we haven't seen that side of Kevin publicly yet.
I thought the same thing, and I thought it was great. But so what that did was that, I think, solidifies the fact, like, you can see why the Patriots took him in the 3rd round from a personality standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. He is a quarterback. Like he simply lacked the physical skill, but mentally, because you're right. So he lit them up. He's like, the ball, you know, you have to care more. The ball is basically our franchise. Absolutely right. And then he said, we're going to effing get it fixed. And I thought to myself, these are things quarterbacks say. And the way he said it, it wasn't even like threatening, but it was very like, I'm in charge of this thing and we're going to get this fixed. Like, you can see why the Patriots now, because for a while, when you like look at the failure of O'Connell's career, and then he bounced around, you're like, what were Belichick and company thinking? You can hear it. You can just hear it. I mean, this guy is wired. If this guy had the physical talent to go along with his mind, and that's why I think he is, at least for 2024, a really good coach, because he controlled that room, but he didn't do it in the Zimmer-esque type of, you guys suck, I'm going to go to the podium and tell the media, you guys suck. You know, by the time he gets to the podium, he's still mad, but he's sort of changed. He's adjusted his tune.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I thought that was Vikings wise, I thought that was the most fascinating thing. Not because I was shocked he got mad, but because I was curious, just like you, what does it sound like? And I would say this, I came away from that even more optimistic about him.
Me too.
Because it wasn't a we suck, you know, you suck, not my fault. It was literally we're going to get this turned around. And now it dovetails perfectly with what you just played, which is the after Carolina and the win, away we bleep and go.
You know what it was? It was a feedback sandwich. You know how they tell people, like they tell people in management, if you're going to give someone negative feedback, put it inside of a sandwich where you start with something positive.
No, I've never heard of this.
And then you go negative.
I'm not kidding.
And then you end with something positive so that you don't just get hit over the head with the negative feedback. So he starts with, and I'm paraphrasing here, hey, we're 0-2, but we've only lost by a combined 9 points despite losing the turnover battle 7-1 or whatever it is.
It was
so
7-1, you're right.
So it was kind of a, hey, like we're right in this thing. And then the feedback sandwich to the negative part was, this is a huge bleeping problem. You guys need to bleeping care more, and I'm bleeping pissed.
Yep.
But we've got the leadership positive here. Here's the sandwich. We've got the leadership to fix it, and I believe the phrase he used was, and once we do, we're going to be a freight train moving forward out of this thing. Now, of course, they then lost their starting quarterback, and then Justin Jefferson hurt his hamstring.
But they did get going. But they did get going until Kirk got hurt.
Yeah. Okay, now before we get, because we should get to some of the other receivers, and then I actually have, we like to rank things during this time of year. I have actually ranked the top 10 current wide receivers in the NFL in honor of this receiver series coming out. Mm-hmm. But on the personal chef, if you became rich and you started making, 8 figures, 8 figures a year, 9-figure contracts. So it looks like Justin Jefferson, like some of the first things he bought were, and maybe he bought like a home for his family. I'm not sure what all of his expenditures were, but he clearly said, okay, jewelry for sure. I'm a big jewelry guy.
Right.
There was a nice Mercedes, I think, parked in the parking lot. But then personal chef was one of the first things he decided. I'm rich now, and I don't really feel like cooking for myself. So I'm just going to literally have a guy in my kitchen while I watch TV cooking up gourmet, healthy meals. I've always said, Judd, if I were to become rich like Justin Jefferson, a personal chef would be one of the first things. It'd be great. You come home.
Well, and that meal looked absolutely delicious.
Make sure that I don't get super fat, and make sure that I've got all the macros that I need, and I want it to taste good, right?
And I wonder if Justin decided on that or was urged to, because back to your thing on the candy, when he opened those, he didn't have a little candy. This dude had more candy. And you can, it's funny because weight-wise, at his age with what he does, he can do that. But we now know that there are like factors of how your body actually holds up. And I wonder, because a lot of guys now do have chefs, I wonder if it was suggested to him, but it looks like a great idea. I would love to have a chef.
Yeah.
I would love to, I don't need a big house. I literally don't care about cars.
Yeah,
I don't care about cars.
I'd
like a nicer car.
Something nice and safe with some fun technology.
But I'm never going to go purposely spend a ton on a car. Jewelry, obviously, as far as possible. But
I want to see you with one of those. He called it. Was it the Cuban?
You know what
the Cuban knot.
You know what I thought?
Chain?
The first thing I thought is, I don't know that I would allow them to show my house and then show all of that bling. I thought to myself, someone
they
could
showed
figure
his
that
whole
out.
house. Yeah,
I know, but I'm saying like Kirk had a room for his stuff, right? Well, you're not going to go be like, I'm going to heist Kirk's room, right? But like he's literally taking out, I don't know how, $1 million of jewelry. I mean, I don't know,
God.
but like I immediately thought, as a concerned old guy, I really wouldn't want that shown in my house.
I thought that too,
because I wouldn't want some guy I don't know.
I felt the same way. I was
bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, unless he doesn't did he move? Maybe he doesn't live there anymore.
And he might have moved, and he might have a safe deposit box. I don't know. But my point is, like, that was my first thought of it. That looks like, I mean, I might be totally wrong.
Does he have a safe room? Does he have a safe room?
Yeah.
Do they have gated communities in Egan? Is it gated? I don't know.
What's your guess on the value of the jewelry that we saw? Because I don't know anything about jewelry prices.
I'm usually good at like guessing numbers in games like this. I have no idea how to price jewelry like that. I mean, it could be like that one that got ripped off his neck during the game. That could have been a $10,000 or $100,000 piece or more, and I would have no idea.
I don't think the league should allow you to wear jewelry in a tackle sport.
Feels dangerous.
Yeah, it does, and it feels like unnecessary in game. Like, I guess if you've got a necklace or something that means a lot as far as your beliefs, but that looked like just a nice necklace.
Yeah, but what if I believe in really expensive gold? And
clearly the league doesn't care.
And you believe in God or whatever.
I would lose it all.
Tell what they can wear.
I would lose it all, including these rings now. So guys wear they've got those wedding rings that are like rubber or something instead of. Just take your wedding ring off during the game, okay? We don't need to know you're married or not.
I'm with you.
It's football, baby.
I don't want to be searching for a wedding ring at the 25-yard line. Well, okay, what about some of the other... I'll just give you a couple things I was literally just like taking notes throughout the entire first couple episodes.
I took notes for 8 episodes, baby. It's great.
And we'll get to some of the other ones like next week, but I'm going to read you like 5 or 6 things and you jump in however you want here. So I thought it was really interesting. Amon-Ra St. Brown, super impressive dude, by the way. I know he plays for a division rival team, but he has come on like a freight train the last couple years as one of the best receivers in the league.
Yep.
He literally played through a massively torn oblique injury in which, well, the funniest comment was, so he hurts the hip oblique, and they have a Thursday night game coming up against the Packers.
Yep.
And he's talking about being at practice on Monday or Tuesday or whatever day it was. And he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, the pain was like a 9.
Yep.
And ordinarily, I don't like taking painkillers unless it's the Packers.
Yes.
And then they show him in uniform pregame against the Packers. I think Vikings fans can relate to that feeling. But then he also has all 16 wide receivers taken in front of him in his draft class, memorized, name, and school, and he has them written down in a notebook, his daily practice notes. He reads the list, all 16 wide receivers taken before him in the draft every single day before practice.
The two things that struck me about those first two episodes were, one, the level of intelligence of St. Brown and Devontae. Devontae Adams now he's wired. Both he and St. Brown are wired really tight. Like off the field, Jefferson's just a fun dude.
Yeah.
And Devontae Adams around his kids is really sweet. But everything else, that guy they are both extremely intelligent. Like you can see what it takes to play as far as the routes go, as far as how much you can help control things in the locker room. But the other thing, and that's the interesting thing at this position, everyone that they followed gets hurt. And the price, and it starts in episode 2. Yeah. They do a great job of documenting the price, the toll it takes on your body. And what amazes me is these guys play through a lot, but more importantly, the pain threshold, like when they get hurt and they're poking and prodding them like in the tent or like going through, I think I would pass out and start crying. Dude. No, I'd start crying and pass out. They literally, and not to spoil it, but St. Brown plays a game in this series with hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Oh.
And he's like, it hurts to catch the ball. It feels like I have pins in my hands. My feet hurt. It hurts to run. He wears a mask so you can't see the breakout. Yeah. And he plays the entire game.
So, by the way, he only missed one game. So he had hand, foot, mouth, and then he had oblique, they said torn off the bone, I guess. He missed one game. He went for 1,500 yards. You mentioned Devontae Adams, and again, these, if you're 22 minutes into this, then you don't care about spoilers. We're going to spoil some things. We're not going to give everything away. But one of my favorite scenes of the first 2 episodes was I think it's Devontae, and then Devin is his wife's name, and they have kids, and one of their kids is like a kindergartner. I think it was kindergarten or first grade or whatever. And they decide, it'd be fun to just invite all of her classmates to our house for a dinosaur party.
Yes.
And Devontae said, and you can see their house is like a $5, $6, $7 million, just beautiful, sprawling home with a massive backyard and views of the mountains and stuff. And so all these parents come and bring their kids, and there's bouncy houses and big inflatable dinosaurs and all this food. It's
party probably cost about $25,000 to put on.
Yeah, it was like however much you paid for your wedding is probably what they put into this kindergartner's birthday party.
More, yeah.
So all these parents show up, and like Devontae isn't going to the school events because he's playing football. So some of these parents are meeting Devontae for the first time, and half of them just came over because it's this kid's mom and dad, not knowing that he's a football player, and the other half are like, "Holy crap, we're at Devontae Adams' house right now. This is wild."
Yeah. Here's my problem with that. If I had kids, which I don't, and if I had kids that age years ago, when my kid goes to school, wouldn't you get the list of kids and like at least examine, especially if like these kids clearly don't go to like some okay school, right? Like they're probably in a pretty nice upscale school. Wouldn't you look at the list of last names of the parents just out of curiosity of exactly that?
I mean, it's a good question.
I think I'd find out that Devontae Adams, arguably the best receiver in the entire league, I think I'd find out that he goes to school with my young child.
You'd see that the last name is Adams.
Right, but I mean, you're in an affluent, my guess is it's a very affluent school. Like, it's not just some like, oh my God, Devontae Adams decided to send his kid to this arbitrary school. I would probably know.
But not everyone's a sports fan, so you wouldn't even think you're not Googling every single.
Yeah, but if it's an actor,
And you also don't know that you're going to a $6 million home or whatever
Las
until
Vegas.
you show up.
I'm just saying. I think this was a little oblivious of the parents who didn't know. He
Not
said
everyone.
half the
Not
parents
everyone
knew.
knows who the 5th best wide receiver in the NFL is. I will.
Right,
and,
but
and Las Vegas and Henderson, wherever he lives, is a very transient area where it's
Yeah.
not like people are.
I've
By
been
the way,
look-
that team also just moved there like
I've been
a
looking
couple
out
years
for
ago.
Raiders and Golden Knights, and possibly like entertainers. You got to be up on what's going on, especially with your kid.
Most entertainers are not living in Las Vegas too. It's very transient, so I don't blame these parents for not knowing.
I fault them. Get your act together, people.
And then George Kittle, to me, if he wants to be, is going to be the next Pat McAfee level media star. Like he will literally do whatever he wants and make tens of millions of dollars a year as a media star whenever he's done playing football.
Absolutely. In fact, he wants to get into wrestling.
As a wrestler or as a commentator?
No, he'd like to wrestle. He made it very clear. He's got they've got a farmhouse, I think, which of course is I'm sure gorgeous in Nashville, and he wants to buy a ring to put in the farmhouse to practice on. But he keeps convincing himself I shouldn't do that till I'm retired from football.
He shouldn't because he can get hurt.
Yeah, but no, he wants to wrestle. The funny thing about that is Kittle is an absolute star of this entire thing. Like he's goofy. He's really goofy. Not too much shocked me though. Much like with Jefferson, if you had said, you know what, George Kittle is going to be a trip, I'd be like, oh, of course he is.
Well, he shows his personality
every time.
And by the way, on the wrestling front, he's constantly front row ringside at big events, WrestleManias and different things.
Absolutely.
So the other thing that was funny is that the sideline mics picked up a conversation between George Kittle and I think it was Kyle Juszczyk and Christian McCaffrey talking about the Bruno Mars concert they went to with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, when
last year. I don't know.
The first thing I thought of is when was that? Because as I tweeted, are we looking at more tampering here? Are we looking at more?
Oh,
did they go as friends
from a couple years ago?
349. Yeah, that's what.
Well, it would have had to been in the last couple years because McCaffrey would not have.
Right,
McCaffrey wouldn't have been part of that group then.
But what I'm saying is, was it before Purdy took off? Because if so, are those guys buddies, or was it 349ers serving as a conduit for the team to try and convince Cousins, hey, your boy Kyle wants you?
Listen, we got mocked for like 5 straight off seasons for the Kirk Cousins to 49ers connections. Like, you guys are just clickbait.
Yeah, well,
this makes sense, man. At one point, the Vikings sent a contingent of players to get Brett Favre back. Players do the dirty work more than you think in these cases.
Kyle Shanahan, being a smart guy, there's no way he's going to get his hands dirty, right?
No, keep a distance. Let Kyle Juszczyk do the dirty work, just like he does on the field.
Well, and Kittle, hey man, come play with us. We love you. I will say this. Kittle has a personality trait that's hard to come by for a guy like me. He is incredibly positively uplifting. Like,
would that be exhausting for you to be around?
The world can be crumbling around him and he's going to see the good. No, he's just a classic glass half full guy.
Yeah.
And I prefer to see the glasses half empty. Or
in that case, mostly empty.
The bottle.
I think that bottle represents your personality more than a glass half empty. Even
this represents
the glass is mostly empty.
Sports scene. Anyway, I thought it was very interesting though. It immediately occurred to me. I wonder if those guys were serving as an agent of the 49ers to try and convince Kirk. Hey,
I like that conspiracy theory.
Might want to play for us.
There was way too many connections and way too many times where the Niners needed someone to come in as the final piece before Purdy, officially took over. So if it was any time before last season, it would not shock me.
Let me throw a thought at you though that has occurred to me as of late, okay? And it's going to be reckless as hell. What about this? So Purdy's good. Like Purdy looks like he's really good, okay? He's solid. They either are incredibly smart or got lucky. But this team moved on from Trey Lance very quickly after making a huge trade, like a trade that would get a lot of executives fired. They basically said, you know what? Not going to work here. Purdy steps in, and Purdy's good. But after watching this, I'm not convinced that they still wouldn't have pursued Kirk if they could have got him at the right terms for them.
What's your take? Is your take that they might still pursue Kirk?
No, not now. My take is I think we assumed that Purdy was the guy in San Francisco for sure previously.
Oh, I agree with that.
Now.
Yeah.
Kirk's gone now, okay?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is whenever this concert was, like let's say Purdy had started to emerge or played well for a while, I'm not quite sure that a team that punted on a high draft pick to go to a 7th round pick wouldn't have pivoted off of that 7th round pick to sign Kirk if they could have got him at what they consider to be a fair price.
Yeah, I don't know when or where the Bruno Mars concert was.
I'm gonna guess Vegas.
I have seen Bruno Mars in concert, and he's fantastic.
Super Bowl show was good.
Yep, highly recommend if you can see Bruno Mars.
I'm not really a fan, but yeah, he was good.
So I'm with you. After the 2022 season, where Purdy comes in as a reliever, basically they go 5-0. I don't think they were fully married to him between 2022 into 2023.
Correct.
So if that covert gathering at a Bruno Mars concert happened anytime between like February 2023, so it would have been like if we could connect the dots that meeting happened in like February or March of 2023, right before the league year. Because that would have been when the Vikings were trying to figure out, are we going to extend him? Are we not? They eventually said, no, we're not going to extend you.
Correct.
Would he have then been looking for trade partners?
Correct.
If we can corroborate that.
And that was not just us. There was a report, right?
Let me see. Bruno Mars tour.
I think it was shot down, but I think that there was some reckless or informed speculation about Kirk to San Fran. Like, why would you just arbitrarily have Kirk Cousins go with you if you're going with 3 teammates from San Francisco too?
Yeah.
Throw it out there.
So he, let's see here. Well, September 1st of 2024. That's coming up here. I'm going to try. There's a website called concertarchives.org.
Bruno Mars. Bruno.
So September. Just looking at like March. I want to look at like March of 2023, and then we'll move on to. I'm going to rank the 10 best wide receivers. Okay.
I do have 2 more notes before we do.
So his Las Vegas residency.
Oh, okay,
December 22 all the way through
open dates. So it's an open-ended time period.
So I've got all the specific dates he played in Vegas, but you know what? His last one would have been, let's see here. Yeah, it was kind of like January. I mean, it might line up. He had a bunch of dates, spring too. Even like after the contract decision was made, he was doing May, June. Interesting. Okay, I see where you're going.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I got two more things from the first 2 episodes that go back to Justin Jefferson. Okay, number 1, I did not realize that there were 4 gritties.
Oh yeah, the Jets gritty,
the Monopoly one where he rolls the dice, the LeBron one where he does the powder. Which is really
I don't know if I remember that. I mean, I remember it from the episode.
Which is really the Jordan one, but that's okay. And then the Stan DeMan, which is the hamstring one. And Stan DeMan is a Twitter / Instagram comedian type. And
like TikToker.
TikToker. And he did that on the beach where he's dancing and then grabs his leg. Oh my God, I've been hurt. And it's like, psych, I didn't get hurt. I did not know that. And I love the fact that the gritty comes from the fact that his own mom said, your end zone celebrations are boring.
You need to spice this thing up. When he was in college, she was telling him.
But how great is that? Mom's great here.
Where does the gritty, is the gritty the most famous touchdown celebration?
Ooh.
And I'm not talking about like
currently.
So there's the Icky Shuffle from back in the day, but that was kind of like a 1-year wonder.
I think the first one that I remember, and I think the first one in the 70s was Billy White Shoes Johnson,
Oilers,
who would score a touchdown and then do the thing. I don't know if it was a dance.
I don't know what you call it.
Yeah. But anyway, that
Chad Ochocinco had different things that he would do, but there was no like actual dance.
And there's celebrations that aren't dances. Well, I guess they're team dances. The Gritty's the only one that I can think of that involves a player. And then if you choose to join in, you can. But the player doesn't need you to be involved.
I would say in terms of dances. So forget about like, because if you want to do celebrations, you could say the Joe Horn's cell phone and the padding, right?
Yeah,
Let's
that's
take away those.
one-off. That's a one-off.
Take away one-offs. I would say the Deion high step is probably number one in terms of dances. The Deion Sanders high step. The Gritty number two. I think the Billy White Shoes Johnson is in the top 3, top 5.
Icky Shuffle
the
was
Icky
huge.
Shuffle was a phenomenon in the late 80s, early 90s
Yeah.
for a couple years.
Now, is the Gritty going to go the way of that eventually?
But the Gritty's been around longer than the Icky Shuffle already, right? It's been like 5 years if you include LSU.
Long. I don't remember how long. Now the Deion high step though would literally start as after he picked off a ball and start in the field of play, right?
That's great. Well, the first touchdown Justin Jefferson scored in the NFL, and they showed it. He started the Gritty at like the 10-yard line.
Yeah, which is not.
He grittied his way into the end zone,
which is not a good idea. I'm sure Coach Zim didn't like that.
That's right. Zimmer was. Yeah.
And then my last thing is the only disappointment about the first 2 episodes Jefferson related for me was I would have liked a little bit more on how close that contract got.
He made the offhanded comment during practice stretching. O'Connell's like, "Is that a new necklace, new chain?" And he kind of said, "Just imagine what I would buy with a new contract, Coach."
Yeah, but I mean, to go back to what Dukes has reported for quite some time, they supposedly right before the regular season started got incredibly close. Mm-hmm. I would have just clearly that was recorded and then not aired. I didn't need a lot more, but I would just be curious. Like I felt like because the contract got done that they glossed over what was an important storyline at that time. And I would have just liked to have seen a little bit more on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny, some of the stuff they show and don't show, like the Hard Knocks Giants front office stuff is really inflammatory.
They're calling Saquon Barkley up, the GM, on his cell phone. Yeah. And it's incredible.
But then in some of these other ones, you don't see certain things that would have been interesting. So, okay, I've got the top 10, and we'll do more like I'll catch up to you and we'll watch the whole thing, and then there's going to be some other nuggets to get to, and I'm sure more of the audience will be able to binge this thing over the weekend too. I've got the top 10 wide receivers currently in the NFL, presented in part by Nicolay Law. A quick shout out to the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily here. So Nicolay Law knows that, if you get into an accident, something happens, life can come to a stop for you, and so that's where they're here to help you start your path at nicolaylaw.com, or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. They're just normal, everyday Twin Cities folks who happen to have law degrees. nicolaylaw.com, or again, 1-855-NICOLAY. Also, our friends at Dennis Kirk are here for riding season. If you're one of those Ragnars out there that likes to hop on a motorcycle, braids blowing in the wind, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, snowmobiles, you name it, Dennis Kirk has you covered with over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories. DennisKirk.com, where they also offer same-day shipping, free shipping on orders over $89, and lifetime returns. So even 10 years later, if the thing that you bought is still in stock and it's in good shape on your end, they will honor a lifetime return. DennisKirk.com. Okay, I have the top 10 wide receivers currently in the NFL, according to me. And this is kind of a hard exercise because so much of it is dependent on external factors like who's the quarterback, what is the offense, does your coach know what he's doing? Yep, Devontae, poor guy.
Can't get me the ball. Oh, and by the way, Garoppolo, man, did he suck.
Yeah, it was rough, man. He's injuries, and I mean his contract had to be sort of redone because of the injuries that they didn't really know about.
I had no idea he was that fried.
So okay, here are the honorable mentions, and I did not include tight ends. I know George Kittle is part of this thing. I did not include tight ends here.
Yep.
So honorable mentions for me: DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Amari Cooper, Nico Collins after a huge season last year. Mm-hmm. Puka Nacua, I want to see another year of it for both those guys.
Love that name.
And I've kind of moved Stephon Diggs out from. I don't even know that Diggs is a top 12 to 15. He might not even be the best receiver on his own team with Nico Collins. Yeah, it's just, we'll see about Stephon Diggs, but he only had like 1,100 yards last year in a full season. I know the Bills committed to running the ball more kind of down the stretch, but
Okay.
kind of down on Diggsy here on this list. Number 10, Deebo Samuel. One of the most unique, versatile wide receivers in recent NFL history. Every game, he's running the ball a handful of times. He's catching a handful of passes. He's out on the edge, opening up, lanes for Christian McCaffrey as a blocker. He doesn't have the numbers of the other receivers. You're going to be like, wait a second, he doesn't even have 1,000 yards. He doesn't even have the best numbers on his own team. Brandon Ayuk does. But his impact across the board, I think, is felt more than you would see just on the back of the football card with the statistics.
Yes, and it becomes extremely clear that when he missed those 3 games and San Fran lost all 3, that's entirely why they lost.
Yeah.
Like, he makes such a difference. And he's not only, he's incredibly fast, but my God, is he strong.
He is. He's a bowling ball. Yeah.
Yep.
I think the way Kyle Shanahan described, he talked about his like body density being that of a linebacker or
yes, he did, and that's exactly
like a defensive lineman. Yeah.
Punishing.
So Deebo Samuel, if you just look at the numbers, he's not, but if you look at the impact, look at the Niners with him, without him, they lose games without him, they win games with him.
Yep.
So Deebo, number 10. Number 9, Mike Evans. I don't think people realize 10 years in the NFL for Mike Evans. 10 seasons over 1,000 yards. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is Baker Mayfield's and Jameis Winston's throwing him the ball over the past decade. There's a couple Tom Brady years, but he was tied with Tyreek Hill for the NFL touchdown lead among wide receivers last year. Just a massive body, 6'4", 6'5", 230 some pounds. So Mike Evans oftentimes gets forgotten about down there in Tampa Bay, but he's number 9 on my list.
Yeah, that's fair. He is fantastic. He is absolutely great.
Number 8, Brandon Ayuk. So you could fight me on putting Ayuk over Deebo Samuel, but he's one of the best big play wide receivers in the entire league. He was 2nd in yards per catch last year, 2nd in total PFF grade among all wide receivers, and 3rd in yards per route run. Plus, he was like 1,300 yards just back of the football card. So I understand why he wants more money. Now, the system is very kind to him, and there's all these other weapons that sort of take attention away. But Brandon Ayuk has proven himself to be one of the best big play wide receivers in the NFL.
Interesting. Yeah, keep going, because I think my initial inclination here is I think Deebo is low, but I'd be curious to hear the rest of the list too.
Could be, yeah. Okay, number 7, A.J. Brown. Just been a machine in Philadelphia the last couple of years. Almost 3,000 combined yards over the past 2 seasons in Philadelphia. He was 4th last year in receptions that led to a first down, and he was 4th in PFF grade among receivers. Mm-hmm. Number 6, I've got him coming down the mountain a little bit, Devontae Adams. So again, some of it's like who's throwing him the ball, but he is 32 years old this season. He's not in his prime necessarily anymore. He can still put up huge numbers even with random dudes at quarterback, but I think a year or 2 ago, he'd be in my top 3. I'm sliding him down, and you'll see like some of these other guys, like who are you putting him ahead of here? Number 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown. 119 catches, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns last year, despite being injured for most of the season. A ton of contested catches. He averages at least 1 contested catch per game, which is among the top receivers in the league. And he's also one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the NFL, which helps. That Detroit run game is just off the charts, like 5 yards a carry as a team.
He is Dan Campbell special right there, man.
Yeah.
Like, is exactly
how many guys can catch 119 passes, 1,500 yards, and be great on the edge as blockers? That's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And got left off the Pro Bowl team, but was first-team AP All-Pro. Figure that one out. Pro Bowl so stupid.
It's ridiculous. Okay, number 4, CeeDee Lamb. 135 catches, over 1,700 yards, double-digit touchdowns, progressively better in each of his 4 seasons with the Cowboys. He's one of the 4 best receivers in the league, as I as I have on this list. I think Cowboy fans would say, no, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. There's probably 6 guys on this list, maybe even 7, where their fan base would fight this list and say, no, that guy has to be number 1. You're wrong. CeeDee Lamb has to be number 1.
When does Lamb get paid?
Well, it's been 4 years. I mean, now, like this would be
right. That's what
usually
I'm saying.
between your
Still
4th and 5th year, you know?
Exactly.
And if you're the Cowboys and you've got Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak all in need of new contracts, I'm paying CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and figuring out my future at quarterback.
Yeah.
Those are 2 of the best at their positions. Dak is like maybe the 9th best at his position.
I think the Cowboys beyond Dak as well might have a few very important jobs to figure out here. I feel like the Cowboys have plateaued where the Cowboys are, which is not a terrible place to be, but I don't know. Like, I don't really trust Dak. I think Dak in the regular season is fantastic. I don't personally really trust at this point in his career Mike McCarthy necessarily. Parsons is a game wrecker. Well, and here's the thing with Parsons too. What does energized back to being defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer do with Parsons?
Yeah.
You know, I think if Mike has his fastball back, that could be really, really intriguing to watch.
Or it could blow up in everyone's faces and be a glorious disaster.
Then they're all fired probably. They're all gone.
Okay, number 3, kind of a forgotten man here, but Jamar Chase is the 3rd best receiver in the NFL, according to me. A couple of weird seasons for him, which is why people are going to say, well, no, you got to put him lower because... So 2 years ago, he missed a bunch of games with an injury. He missed like 5 or 6 games. And then last year, Jake Browning was his quarterback for half the year. But I still think Jamar Chase, healthy Joe Burrow, you're going to see those numbers go right back to where they were a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And he's just wildly talented. So Jamar Chase, number 3.
Okay.
Number 2, Tyreek Hill. He led all receivers in yards and touchdowns last year. He's still one of the fastest, most explosive players in the NFL. And yeah, like the system helps too. But okay, Tyreek Hill has been in Kansas City and Miami, and everywhere he's been unstoppable. He's been explosive. He can score from anywhere on the field. So in terms of just like who don't you want to deal with, I think Tyreek Hill is very high up on that list in the NFL. And then number 1 is Justin Jefferson. Historical numbers through his first 3 seasons. Last year, he misses 7 games and still goes for 1,100 yards. And half of those games were with Nick Mullins throwing him the football.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I forgot too.
Jefferson won.
That last game at Detroit, he had an incredible day in a game that meant nothing, that he probably shouldn't have been asked to play, and he had an incredible game. So, yeah, I'd move Debo. I'd move Debo up.
Where?
A little bit. I would put him just above Ayuk at 7. I would move AJ Brown down.
Okay.
Devontae's a good one. I mean, that's an interesting one because 3 years ago, he probably is atop this entire list. But I mean, guys' careers do drop off quickly. And, you know, to go from Garoppolo and then Aiden O'Connell, like this will be a very interesting year in Devontae's career as far as, because he was, before McDaniels got fired in the show, he's basically talking about, I got to get out of here. This has become a hellhole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Antonio Pierce came in and things changed. It was very, very clear that Devontae got at least a say in who started at QB. Like, so he basically at least was empowered there. But this will be, to me, an incredibly intriguing year here because, to your point about his age now, if this is not a really good year, like, then the clock is just basically going to run out eventually, because how long, it's not that you can't continue to play, right? I guess my question is, how long can you continue to be in a top 10 list in which every year now there's an infiltration of talent as well?
Yeah. And I mean, 6 might sound sort of shocking for Devontae Adams. I can't put 32-year-old Devontae Adams. I can't put him above current Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. I mean, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, no,
guy's ridiculous and just
disagree. So if you were to do this list, just a guess from you, if you were to do this list this time next year, how many names do you think that aren't on this list currently jump on, and then conversely,
I
leave
think
this
one
list.
of the rookies will. I think like either Marvin Harrison Jr. or maybe like Rome Odunze. I could see one of the rookies jumping in.
Sure.
Marvin Harrison Jr. seems most likely because he's got the most established quarterback throwing passes to him.
Yep.
And then, man, I could see Nico Collins. I could see
Sure.
him being the number one receiver on a team with Stephon Diggs. I could see him
Candidates-
jumping into the 10.
Candidates to leave to me, AJ Brown perhaps.
Mike, I don't know, man.
Mike
AJ
Evans?
Brown's been Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans are
If
probably
Deep-
the most ripe to leave the list.
If Debo gets hurt again, it's going to get dicey.
Yeah.
He got hurt a lot last year.
That's part of the reason why he's 10th too. Like if he had
Yep.
played all the games and
Special player.
also gone for over 1,000 yards.
Well, it's weird though, because he's also asked to do like, he's also asked to play a position at which you're going to get your butt beat a lot.
Yep.
Beat up. Like physically, he takes a pounding.
Yes, he does.
So
So, all right. There you go. Purple Daily here on a Thursday. Daily Vikings entertainment for the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, for our producer who's off doing pre-wedding things the next couple days, Dex. I'm Phil, and we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.